Back in the garage, back in the garage, in the garage, in the garage, back in the garage today, back in the garage, back in the garage today. What's up guys, back in the garage today. It has been a very long time since I have filmed a back in the garage video, though I feel like I've been working on dirt bikes non-stop for the last couple of months. Anyway, it is cold as crap outside. I heated up the garage. I thought it'd be a perfect time to get some work done. This is my 2017 KTM 250 XCF. It's in need of some maintenance, and I'm actually headed down to Florida later this month, and probably gonna do a little riding while I'm down there since it'll be nice and warm. And I thought, might as well get everything together. So this will end up becoming a series of videos that I'll have a playlist because there's a bunch of different things I'm gonna get done to the bike, hopefully all today, but if not, it may bleed over into tomorrow a little bit. So in this video, one thing I wanna do is get some frame guards on the side of the bike. I bought this as a demo model. It didn't have the frame guards on it. They'd already been taken off. So we're gonna get those installed today, but before we get those installed, let me show you a couple things I need to get done first. Before we go to start bolting on some new parts. Now it's best to work on your bike when it's clean, but it's like 19 degrees outside today, and I did get some riding in last Sunday. I'm filming this on a Saturday, so while the tires are a little muddy and there's a little bit of mud up under the fender, it's really not too bad. But anyway, you should always clean your dirt bike before working on it, but it's just not gonna happen today. So the frame guards are actually gonna go over this part of the frame right here. It'll keep me from wearing the paint off like has happened already, and just provide a little bit of added protection, and maybe even allow my boot to hug this frame a little bit better, providing better contact with the bike. But the first thing I need to do here is get this cleaned up. I'm gonna take some Scotch-Brite, I'm gonna take some sandpaper. You can see we even got a little scuff mark up here. And then once we get this all cleaned up, we're gonna get a couple coats of primer on, and then a couple of coats of paint just to get that protected before we go and bolt on the frame guards. All right, because I noticed there were some bare metal spots up here, I went ahead and removed the fuel tank. If you want to know how to do that, I'm going to link that right up there because there's a video about how to do it. So I'm going to get some parts cleaner and clean this crap up. Then I'm going to continue with my scouring pad to get this, and then we'll get some more sanding. There's also a spot up here that I kind of like to take care of just so that doesn't become a problem later on. We'll get all of this frame cleaned up, and then we'll get to painting. All right, so I finished using my Scotch-Brite pad. I did a little bit of wet sanding over here. We just want to make sure we've got a good surface for the primer to stick to, get all the rust, surface rust off we can possibly get. There's still just a tad bit showing up there, but it looks pretty good. We've got a few spots over on this side. We got right there, right here, and then obviously this area down here. Next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and mask this off because obviously we don't want overspray on other parts of the bike. And then we'll get to painting. Yeah, so I didn't have any newspaper, so I just used regular copy paper. This looks ridiculous, but I've got everything masked off that needs to be masked off. So it's time to get to painting. We're not looking at a concourse quality paint job, so I'm just using this gray primer. It'll turn out looking good. Remember, it's still a dirt bike. The main purpose is to just get the exposed metal covered back up so this bike will last a long time. All right, I got the first coat of primer on. I'm gonna give that about 10 minutes to dry. Take a look at it, see how it is. We might put another coat on and then sand it just a little bit. All right, so I'm over on the right-hand side of the bike. I've got one little run. It's probably kind of hard to see right there. I'm gonna wet sand that out real quick, and then this side is ready for paint. Same deal up top here. I've got one run going right through there. I'm gonna wet sand that out. And then right down here, I was having a difficult time getting this covered, so I put it on a little too thick. Got a run to sand out there. All of this down here turned out great, so I'm gonna let this dry just a little bit longer before I hit this up. I'm actually gonna head over to the other side first. Once I get these runs sanded out, then we're gonna spray paint this baby black. All right, so I got the run sanded out of the primer there, so now we're gonna put the first coat of black on. So you see here, I've got satin black paint that I'm gonna be using. This is gonna match it the closest to my frame. The new bikes have that awesome KTM orange, which is probably gonna be a little bit harder to match with off-the-shelf spray paint, but mine's gonna be pretty easy. All right, so I just finished the first coat. It looks shiny right now, but once it dries, it'll have more of a semi-gloss look to it. I think I got it on a little thick up there, but that really doesn't matter. That's always covered up by the tank anyway. Here's a look at this side over here. I think all this covered pretty well. I'm gonna have to hit that up there one more time, but I'll probably honestly just give it one more coat of everything All right, fast forward a few hours because I left the garage and went up to Ducati Winchester for their ugly Christmas sweater party. And you can see the frame here on the left side. Paint job turned out actually looking really, really good. We got all the bare metal covered here. There was some bare metal up here. There was also some up here. All of that has been covered very, very well. I didn't paint right there, but that's minimal. If we come over to the right-hand side of the bike, you can see we got everything covered all the way up through here. We basically sprayed this entire area. Everything looks really great again. And now it's time for the actual purpose of this video, which was putting frame guards on here. So let's go get those. All right, so when it comes to frame guards, I just went with the factory KTM units. I'll zoom in here so you can get the factory part number off of it. Now, included inside the package is the frame guards. We've got some zip ties, the rest of the mounting hardware to put these things on here. You can go with the factory units, a Cheerby's, which Noah has on one of his race bikes. They make a good one. There's all kinds out there available. I just decided to go for the factory ones because I think retail they're about 30 bucks. My price less than 20. So a really cheap way to protect the frame. Now, in case you're wondering what frame guards actually do and what the purpose behind them is, well, their purpose is kind of in the name. They're frame guards. They go over top of the frame themselves, and that's where your boot is going to be rubbing up against the frame of the bike as you're gripping the bike, riding it. So in addition to just protecting the frame and the surface and the painted area from rubbing off like happened on mine previously, the other thing they allow you to do, especially some of the aftermarket ones that have the rubber inserts in them, like the ones on Noah's bike, they give you a little bit more of a friction area for your boot to be up against to allow you a little bit more control over the bike. To be honest, I'm really putting them on there for one purpose, and that's so I don't have to paint this thing again. It just makes the bike look a little nicer. And for 20 bucks to not have the exposed metal and to not have to worry about the rust, surface rust and stuff again, seems easy enough for me. We just got a few bolts to undo and put back on, and we'll have these bad boys on the bike. All right, so we're over here on the left-hand side of the bike. The first thing we want to do is take this screw or this bolt out right here. That's part of the body work, and then I'll show you what's happening next. This is a T45 bit. Now that I have this bolt removed, if we look down here, we see the frame is already pre-drilled here and here. The reason why I need to take this out, I need that little bit of free play right here in order to get this frame guard back underneath there. All right, so included in your pack are 4 little screws. They're a 6mm head on top of each of them. You also have 2 washers and 2 zip ties. I'll show you what those are for in just a minute. But we're gonna take our frame guide here on the left-hand side. We're just gonna pull this piece of bodywork out just a little bit to allow that to fall into place. And everything just kind of, it fits on there perfectly. I'm gonna use just a little bit of blue Loctite to hold these screws in. I just don't want them popping back out after some hard riding. And I'm just gonna take this one and just thread it in by hand just to get it started. And then on this bottom section here, we're gonna grab one of the washers. It's got a shoulder on it. I want that shoulder to go to the inside, and grab one of the screws. Again, I'm gonna use a little bit of blue Loctite on it and just go ahead and get that started by hand. And then grab your 6mm driver or ratchet, whatever you're using. It's important to get these in tight, but you don't want them too tight. It is plastic, and if you were to over tighten these things, you're just gonna crack these, and then they're not gonna be much use to you. Now before I move on any further, I'm gonna reinsert this body bolt right here and get that tightened back down. All right, so with the screw and washer in down here, screw in here, and the body screw back in, we have one more thing to do, and that is to zip tie right around here. You can see there's not much holding it on up there, so we need to get a zip tie on there. KTM does include a zip tie, so let's get that done next. All right, so there's no right or wrong way to put this on here, but I want this piece right here, the head of it, kind of tucked back here in the frame so I don't catch it on anything. I'm just gonna pull that tight, rotate that around, and then just get a pair of cutters to cut that off. And just like that, we have the new frame guard over on the left-hand side of the bike. Let's move over to the right-hand side of the bike and get that one put on. All right, so obviously the one that comes over on the right-hand side of the bike provides a little bit more protection. It covers up your rear master cylinder here, but it goes on exactly the same way. You've got the mounting area down here. you also have the screw that goes in here, and it leaves you access in order to get the master cylinder taken off should you need to, because it's got 2 holes right there. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna take this T45 out, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so with the T45 out, once again, we're gonna grab our 6mm, but before we do that, we're gonna make sure this thing sits right in place where it needs to be, and it does. Get a dab of blue Loctite on here. Once again, get this piece, or get this screw started by hand. And then same deal down here on the bottom. We wanna grab the washer with the shoulder facing in, get your final 6mm screw, dab of Loctite, get it started by hand, then grab your 6mm driver or ratchet, whatever it is you're gonna use. Again, careful not to over tighten this because it's just plastic and we don't want to break it. All right, we've got the 2 screws and washer in. Now we're going to come back to our T45. I am going to use just a dab of Loctite on that. I don't think the manual calls for it, but it's not going to hurt anything. Got that tightened back up, and last but not least, we're gonna grab, looks like they actually gave us a spare zip tie. I'm not real sure what that's for. Unless it were to go around there or something. We're gonna grab this zip tie, same deal as before. Cut that off, and I'm just gonna rotate it in a little bit there so it's out of the way. I can only assume, and it doesn't really say. All right, so the last zip tie, see where it goes now. It goes through this little place around the master cylinder. Go ahead and pull that good and tight. Just keeps that from flapping there. And then we're gonna cut it off. Done. Now we've got a good look of what the frame guard over on the right hand side of the bike looks like. Really cleans it up a lot, makes it look nice. And like I said, it should protect the frame from further paint damage and just rubbing it down to the bare metal. All right guys, so as you can see, changing out a pair of frame guards on a KTM dirt bike, relatively simple job, assuming you didn't have to like paint the frame like I did to get it looking good again. Many of you probably already had them on your bike when you got it. If you didn't, it's simple to put a set on. If you did have a set and you've scuffed them all up and you want a new set or maybe an aftermarket set before this upcoming race season, or maybe you're getting ready to sell your bike and you just want it to look in pristine condition to get top dollar out of it, really, really simple job. So I really like the way my bike turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. If you have any questions about the install or any questions about the bike, check out the rest of the playlist with the different maintenance things I've got on there. But if it's something specific to this, let me know down in the comments section below. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.